Hey, what is going on, guys? RZ Stealth here, and in today's video, we're going to be breaking down the 10 pick or ban champions for patch 8.17. And if you guys have yet to enter into the giveaway I'm running right now with a bunch of other YouTubers, then you can do so down in the description below. We're giving away a headset by Blue Microphones, and we're also giving away $100 worth of RP. So to start it off here, one champion that almost everyone will agree on is a pick or ban for this patch is Akali. You probably won't even have to ban her out yourself in this patch because someone on your team or someone on the enemy team is probably going to end up banning out this champion. So Akali is one of the strongest, if not the strongest assassin right now if you know how to play her well. She definitely does have a little bit of a higher skill cap than some of the other assassins, but if you put the time into this champion, then you should be seeing a lot of success on her. She's just a great pick. If you can get ahead in the early game, your snowball potential is insane. She's also one of the safer assassins in the laning phase because of her shroud. It's actually very hard to gank Akali in the early game, so a lot of the time you're not going to die in lane. You're going to be able to get past your little bit of a weaker laning phase, get onto your gunblade, and once you grab your gunblade, once you hit your mid game spike, then you can just start to take over with Akali. So number 2 here is going to be Evelynn, and Evelynn over the past few patches has slowly crept up to being one of the strongest, if not the strongest jungler for 8.17. Evelynn for solo queue is just a very hard pick to deal with, just due to the fact that there's very little counterplay to her. She's a stealth champion that has a very easy to perform one-shot combo. She doesn't even need to hit a single skill shot in order to one-shot you, so if she gets ahead in the early game, if she gets a snowball going, it's very hard to deal with her if she knows what she's doing. And then not only is Evelynn's one-shot combo very easy to execute, she can also just play very aggro if she does get ahead, because even if she does not end up one-shotting someone, even if she tries to dive in and it doesn't end up working out, she has her ultimate, which she can use to just reset, back right out, so she's just a very low-risk, high-reward assassin, and if you can get ahead with her, you can completely solo carry games on this patch. And then number 3 here is going to be Graves, and Graves is my other pick or ban jungler for 8.17. Graves is still a very strong jungle pick because he's got pretty much no counter matchups right now in the jungle. There's not really anything that's going to hard counter him, so he's just a very safe blind pick jungler. You're always going to have a great healthy clear on Graves. You're always going to be able to contest Scuttle Crab in the early game, so it does allow him to thrive quite a bit in this meta right now. And then his mid game spike, especially if you do run Dark Harvest on Graves, if you grab Storm Razor as your first core item after Warrior, your mid game spike is really good, and you can just start one-shotting insanely well in the mid game with those items and with that rune. So Fizz is still, in my opinion, a very strong assassin pick for 8.17. Despite the nerfs to runes and despite the direct nerfs he got a few patches back, he's still thriving as one of the strongest, if not the strongest assassins in 8.17. I think that Fizz is just a really good pick in the current meta because right now you've got Ahri as the most picked mid laner, and Fizz can do very well into that matchup. You've also got Orianna as the number 3 most picked mid laner right now, and Fizz can also do great into Orianna. You also have Twisted Fate, Rise, Echo, the list just goes on and on. Fizz just has really good matchups right now in the mid lane for solo queue, and he can just do a great job at snowballing those lanes. With the recent transition over to Inspiration Secondary as well on a lot of these mid laners and just going for this sustained setup, it allows Fizz to very easily get past the early laning phase. It's no longer Resolve that is helping you get past the early lane now. It's people taking the Time Wart Tonic as well as Biscuit Delivery as your secondary runes, and then running Dark Seal and Corrupting Potion, and you just have a ton of sustain in the laning phase, so you can look to trade very aggressively with this setup with Fizz in the early game. And if you are also running Ignite on him, then you can just go super aggro and get your snowball going super early with Fizz. So next up here, another mid laner, Kassadin, ended up getting buffed here in 8.17. I'm not too sure as to why he ended up getting buffed because he went from a pretty solid mid lane pick. I think Kassadin was in a great spot in 8.16, and now in 8.17 after the buffs, he's just an extremely strong counter pick into a lot of the most picked mid laners right now. The only picks that Kassadin is really going to struggle with a little bit in this patch are against some of the AD assassins. So against Zed and Yasuo, he's going to struggle a bit in those lanes, but in almost every other matchup in this patch, if he's up against an AP mage, or if he's up against a melee AP assassin like an Echo, an Akali, or a Fizz, he's just going to do very well here in 8.17, and I think that Kassadin for this patch is the best counter pick mid lane champion. If you're playing an AP champion for this patch in the mid lane, then I'd definitely be recommending to ban out Kassadin. Now there's a few different options for runes on Kassadin for this patch. You can either go for Electrocute or you can go for Fleet Footwork. Those are the two that are working best on him right now. If you're up against another melee AP assassin in the mid lane and you're gonna be able to trade in lane, then running Electrocute is a good option there. But if you're in a lane where you just want to sustain in the laning phase, if you don't have a ton of kill pressure yourself, then running Fleet Footwork is what most people are doing right now in this patch, and it just allows Kassadin to get past his slightly weaker laning phase, hit his mid game spike, and just start to take over the game. And then for your ability maxing on Kassadin, as you can see on screen there, it says E first, Q second, and W last. But what this means here is that you want to put 3 points into your Q first, max your E out after that. So 3 points Q, then max your E. After you finish maxing your E, you want to max your Q out second and then your W last. The reason you want to do this is because a lot of people think that 3 points in Q is enough for Kassadin to be able to get past his early laning phase, and you don't really need to put more points into it after that. You want to max your E out second there, or after you put 3 points into your Q, because it does allow you to have much better wave clear with Kassadin. If you don't end up getting any points into your E, then you're not going to be able to shove the mid wave out very fast. By putting those points into your E there, it allows you to shove out mid faster and look for roams and get a good snowball going in your side lanes. So another mid lane pick that I think is a very good ban for this patch is Yasuo. So Yasuo is doing great in this patch against a lot of the other melee assassins that are being played a ton. Kassadin and Echo are two of the most picked melee assassins, and Yasuo can do great in those matchups. He also does pretty good right now against most of the other AP mages, so Yasuo's matchups right now are pretty strong in the mid lane. And then he also does have very good synergy with a lot of the most picked supports, because the support role is moving towards more engaged supports and just CC lockdown supports. That fits Yasuo's playstyle really well. Right now you've got Thresh, Pyke, Alistar, Rakan, Leona as the most picked supports in this patch, and any champions that are looking to dive in, get onto the back line, just synergize great with Yasuo, and it really enables the champion to thrive inside of mid-game team fights. So Morgana is one of the supports that I think is a very good pick or ban for this patch. Morgana is the one support right now that can do very well into a lot of the other most picked hard engaged supports. With the resurgence of Thresh, Pyke, Leona, Alistar, she can do a great job at countering those engaged champions. She's also a very solid pick for solo queue because she's got great pick potential with her bind, so once you do get ahead in the early game with Morgana, or even before you get ahead, just her ability to find picks and just her ability to set up ganks in the early game and get her team rolling is some of the best for any support champion. So the only AD carry for this patch that I think is a pick or ban is Draven. I think that if you can play a good Draven right now, he's the best AD carry for 8.17. His early game is pretty much unmatched by any other AD carry. He does have the best one item spike for pretty much any AD carry with the Stormrazor, and his 2 item spike is even better there once he does finish his Bloodthirster. So he overall just fits very well into the meta. He can snowball the game out of control, which is perfect for this patch. So number 9 here is going to be Jax, and in my opinion, Jax is the strongest bruiser top laner for 8.17. He does really well into most other bruiser top lane picks right now. He also has a much easier time getting through the laning phase in 8.17 because what a lot of Jax players are running right now is Corrupting Potion along with Time Warp Tonic, and it just allows him to sustain really nicely in the early levels if he is up against a harder matchup. Damage runes also got nerfed back in 8.16, so some of his harder matchups that do run Electrocute and do run Airy did get weaker for 8.16 and remain weaker in 8.17. And then number 10 here to round out this video is going to be another bruiser top laner, and it's Darius. So Darius, in my opinion, is a very good ban, especially if you are in the lower elos for this patch. He's one of those champions that if you give him an inch in the laning phase, he's gonna take a mile and he's going to be able to snowball the early game out of control. If you do end up letting him get ahead in the early game, he's gonna be a major threat in the side lane. He's gonna be able to 1v2. He's one of the strongest 1v2 champions in the game, and it's just gonna be very hard for you to shut down Darius and actually end up dealing with him if he does get a lead early. And then two honorable mentions for 8.17 are going to be Zed and LeBlanc. Zed and LeBlanc are definitely some very ban-worthy picks for 8.17. I just think that right now there's too many good bans, especially in the mid lane. The mid lane right now just has some really good assassin picks for 8.17, so it was hard for me to decide whether or not to have Zed and LeBlanc in the top 10, but I decided to leave them out and have them as honorable mentions because I didn't want to oversaturate the top 10 with just a bunch of mid lane picks. I wanted to make sure I did include at least one champion for every single role. So that is going to be all for this video, guys. Those are the 10 picks along with two honorable mentions that you should be looking to pick or ban in 8.17. These are the picks that I think if played well are going to have the best chance at carrying games in this patch, and they're just going to be the most influential champions for 8.17. So if you guys did enjoy this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you have yet to already. So thanks for watching, have an awesome day, and I will see you in my next video.